Yeah, I think one thing we did in college that really helped me when I got there out of high school was take a piece of paper and just write down Monday through Sunday and like have a plan for what you're going to do that week. Because I know it sounds like a lot when you hear us talk about all 7 days in a row, but if you take it day by day, it's really not as much as it sounds like. It's just kind of a plan. You just kind of got to go at it, attack it, and that was the same thing for me. Like in high school, I didn't lift a whole lot. I was skinny. I was sore most of the time, and now I see why, because I didn't have much muscle back then. And now my body's able to recover a lot faster. I'm able to perform at a higher level now that I'm stronger. I think everything kind of relates off your strength, your mobility. I mean, it all works together. But if you have a plan, and not saying like in season you don't want to kill yourself and go above and beyond and try to lift too much weight, but you can maintain while still gaining a little in season, and that's what the off season's for, is to really build that up. You can be sore in the off season, be that kind of stuff, but work your way up to where when you get in season, you can just maintain your strength and be ready for every time you go out there and play.
Yeah, for me, like in high school, I was one of those players that really didn't lift because I was scared that I was going to hurt myself or get injured, during the season. So like through the season, I didn't really lift a whole lot at all, other than just doing like bands and stuff like that. So I didn't do much weightlifting, but as I got into like my senior year, even like late junior year, I kind of picked up the weights a little bit. So I noticed a huge difference just with like how I felt better, just because I was able to take them, more pitches, and my body was able to like kind of withstand it a little bit more. Whereas in like my freshman, sophomore year, like the next day, I mean, my whole arm was just pretty much shot. So now that I'm in college and, I've had 2.5 years of like college lifting, I've definitely added a lot more muscle, and my recovery methods are a lot better. So, lifting, you just got to kind of find your routine. Like for me, I'm big in routine. I need to have some sort of like on paper, like what am I going to do for the week, which that really helps me a lot, just so I can, day by day. So like Saturday, I know what I'm doing. Sunday, I know what I'm doing. Monday, then, et cetera. I just, day by day, I know exactly what I got to get done, and try and get it done the best I can, and without getting injured in the process.
Yeah, I think it's important, and I think we've brought this up in the past, but players really need to fall in love with the weight room. And they also have to really understand, though, that it's not an immediate change in your body. For you guys, I'm sure it takes months and months to really start seeing that change in your body. And players really need to understand that, because we live in a day and age where everyone wants immediate feedback. Everyone wants, that satisfaction right away. And unfortunately, lifting is not that way. It's going to take a while, and you really have to force yourself to get in there every single day and be on that routine and have a mindset that I love this place and I know it's going to help my game in the long run. And I think kids just need to really understand that. Last thing, guys, I don't want to take too much of your times. Brett's obviously got some mustache growing to do. He's probably got to get to.
Right.
But if you guys could tell our players one thing that, hey, as a pitcher, this is the one thing that has helped me the most to get to where I'm at right now, what would it be? If you guys just kind of had to explain that to either youth players or high school players.
So I know a lot of guys say this, but I do think now that I've, in high school, I didn't really lift a whole lot, to where in college, off season, we're lifting 4 to 5 days a week. And then in season, you're getting at least 2 to 3 lifts in. So I think, the biggest thing I would tell, a high school player, even someone who's even younger, 12U ball, I think getting in the weight room, like if you're a younger kid at like 12, you don't need to be benching. You don't need to be like doing all the crazy, power lifts. But I think just getting some dumbbells, just like some gobble squats, just doing a lot of dumbbell stuff, I think is good. And then like for high school kids, like, if you're a freshman, sophomore, whatever it is, that's like your kind of like your prime time to like try and, because college kids are, they're big boys. Like, high school, I was like kind of one of the bigger guys. And then I go to college and I'm like one of the smaller guys, like muscle wise. So I think the biggest thing to get ready from high school to college is just kind of hit the weight room hard, and then know your limits and not try and lift too much, because like you said, like you're not going to be able to bench, 200 pounds in a week. Like you're going to gradually, you might see early gains early on, but eventually it kind of levels off. And then, you might add 5 pounds to your bench, and it might take a month to do it. It might take, 10, it might take a while for it. So think the biggest thing is just be patient with it and don't, get ahead of yourself, and just be smart and don't get injured, because at the end of the day, if you're injured, then you really can't do much with it. So.
Good. How about you, Brent?
Yeah, definitely on the weightlifting side, but also things that I've noticed we've been working on a lot more where I'm at is the mental side of it. So like your preparation's huge. I mean, you're weightlifting, all that, but everything leads as a pitcher. Confidence is a big thing. Like if you have confidence as a pitcher and you go out there, you're going to be a lot better than someone who doesn't. It's just the confidence doesn't just come from anything. Confidence comes from the way you prepare, the way you go in the weight room, the way you kind of go about everything in your day. So yeah, it's some things like you said, like weightlifting and taking your time and not pushing yourself, not expecting results in a day, kind of things like that, but pushing yourself to the limits where, you're building each step along the way. It's not just, you're not going to get to as strong as you want mid-season on the first game of the year. It's kind of, you got to work your way up and, just be more ready for that kind of stuff. Besides that, I'd say just kind of be yourself in a way. You see a lot of guys, maybe the guy next to you, this works for him and he's really good at what he does, the way he does it. But, maybe that's not for you. Maybe because, there's sidearmers, there's guys over the top, there's lefties, there's righties, there's guys that just pitch different. You know what I mean? There's power pitchers, there's guys who throw off speed like Kyle Headrick, stuff like that. He's not going to take after like a Garrett Cole type player. He's not going to do the same workout, have the same regimen. It's just they go about their business in different ways, but they both have confidence in what they do. So I think that's big, is to develop a plan and create that confidence in yourself.
Cole, how about you, man?
Yeah, I 100% agree with both of them on what they said. And yeah, I definitely think that the mental aspect is such a big part of the game. You can go out there and you can be a guy that throws hard and has good stuff, but you can get hit around because you go out there and you're throwing scared. And I know, younger kids are hearing it all the time, about, go out there and, being tough and everything. But it makes a difference, going out there with that confidence, just like Brent said. And, because I've played with guys that have gone out there with, good stuff and got shelled. And then a different guy goes out there that's not as good, but he goes out there and, all he wants to do is just shut the door and he gets the job done. So I definitely think that the mental aspect is a huge part of the game, that I know coaches bring up a lot, but, players need to listen.
And then Dave, as director of pitching for Rhino baseball, if you could have our players all just the one main thing you'd love to see all our players do, what would it be?
Oh man, all that combined. The mental aspect I think is huge. I think because, some of our kids don't throw hard yet because they're still figuring out their body. You got a 12-year-old that hasn't hit that growth spurt yet, and then all of a sudden they do, and then there's so many different levers that are moving, and they're not caught up with how their body's progressing, that they're all of a sudden thrown all over the place. And I think having that confidence and and throwing strikes and competing, because you're going to get hit. We've all been hit, I'm sure. You've all had a catcher call bad call, and have a 500-foot home run hit off them. Thanks, Greg. It's having that confidence to turn the page and face that next batter. I think it's the hardest thing too is, and guys, you could correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the whole social media aspect of it too is like, I remember playing back in high school and college, and I didn't really know who I was facing. Now you've got so many different outlets with PBR and all this other stuff where who you're facing all the time. And I think a lot of kids, all of a sudden you get scared by that, or we're facing this program, we're facing the Rhinos, and, all of a sudden they mentally shut down, which we hope is, for our philosophy is good. But, for me, I didn't really care who I was facing. You could have put me out there against anyone. I was just going to compete against that batter at the time. But I think nowadays guys are so like, hey, this guy's supposed to be really good. And then it shows on the mound because all of a sudden they're not as aggressive as they were with the batter before that, maybe didn't mean anything.
Yeah, for sure. Greg, do you have any kind of final words as president of Rhino Baseball that you like to kind of share with the pitching side or for our players?
I have three things. One, Dave, you hung that changeup. Two, it was further than 500 feet. No, guys, I do have a couple of things. So one of the things that I noticed each one of you guys has mentioned, and you said it a number of times as you talked about how you felt or how you feel that day. And I think that that's something really important for younger guys to understand, is that each pitcher is different. And Brent, I know you just mentioned it, but your routine is going to be different than the guy next to you, and you got to figure out what works for you. So I think for the guys that we coach, especially in summer tournaments, the routine changes all the time, and a lot of times it's not necessarily the fault of the pitcher. A lot of times it's the fault of the way that the tournament just happens to be going, where you've got rain delays and they've got to get X number of games in, and they'll try and tell you, hey, as soon as you guys get done with this game, you're going to go to field 4 and play in 20 minutes. Well, if you're a pitcher, man, you can't get ready in 10 minutes. And I see that, I think, a ton with younger guys, as they think getting ready for a game is just putting on their spikes, playing light catch, and going down the pen and throwing 20 pitches, and they're not ready. So I think that's something that I'd really like our players to understand. Is that getting ready is going to be different for each guy, but it's going to take longer than 10 minutes. And there's got to be a routine, and stick as close as you can to that. My one question is, when did you guys become POs? Why? And how did it help you?
Yeah, for me, so all through high school, I pitched and played third and first. So for me, it was kind of like my last year of playing Rhinos that I in high school, I knew that I was going to be a PO in college. So it's not like I was trying to, do both, but my team is always needed me to play third or first. So my last year of Rhinos, I know we didn't have too many guys on our team. So I was always getting thrown out there to hit or play third, whatever the case was. But yeah, in high school, I was just kind of in my head, I was numerous coaches told me that pitching was my thing. And that in my head already, I was all right, pitching's going to get me to play college. Playing third, I'm not going to have the best arm, I'm not going to be the quickest, I don't have the best bat, but so I kind of knew it, I'd say freshman, sophomore year, I kind of already knew in my head that I was going to become a PO. It just, for me, it kind of ended up happening right before I went to college.
But in high school, you were a pretty damn good hitter. From my
yeah.
I think you were probably hit over 300 for your high school career, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I found out really early. Once they saw a bat in my hand, they knew it wasn't probably the best idea. So I still hit, and I played outfield because it's high school and they needed me to play, so that's what I did. It's good to stay athletic, do different things, but I always, kind of had fun with that aspect more, just because I knew pitching was where it was going to end up with, and since freshman year of high school, so I always hit throughout high school, but once I got to college, I obviously never touched the bat again. But yeah, for the most part, it was, focused on pitching and, hit and play the outfield for fun, kind of thing. So I knew at a young age that I definitely wasn't going to be a hitter.
Yeah, for me, it probably was, I think it was sophomore year of high school is when I became a PO. Could hit the ball pretty far. Pitch selection was just absolutely atrocious. So that doesn't help. But I think that, and when you first become a PO, it's pretty tough having to especially if you're a starter, having to sit there and having to, if your team's struggling, having to sit there and just watch it. I know for me, it's hard for me to sit there when my team's struggling. So I want to go out there and I want to help, in any way I can. But I think that the one thing that came with me being a PO is that it allowed me to be a better teammate in the dugout. Able to pick up guys and, not, because I feel like if I was still hitting or playing the field, or if I was a bullpen guy, then I'd be thinking about myself a lot. But, as a starter, when I'm not throwing that day, I get to just, think about my team, think about my guys, and, be a better teammate that way.
Awesome. Sure. Hey guys, I really appreciate you coming on. I really appreciate you giving back to the program. I think a lot of this stuff is just invaluable for our players. It's just something that they can't find anywhere. It's something that they are literally listening to people that they want to kind of aspire to become, and at the level that you guys are at. So I can't thank you enough. I can't thank you for being good sports about it. Mikey, I called you Husky. Brent, we talked about your mustache constantly. Cole, I didn't say anything to you because we're just scared of you. But we appreciate you being good sports. We appreciate you giving back to the program.